And Mother Nature can be extremely cruel. Not only is she capable of ending the lives of her own children, but she can also sometimes cause terrible genocide without even hesitating. Hi folks, nowadays instead of nature, humans are the ones who cause the death of the most diverse living things. But even the catastrophic actions of humans are not comparable to the environmental tragedies of our planet. Here in this channel already known to you, today we are going to talk about mass extinctions. Interesting, isn't it? Enjoy the video. So let's do it, but first leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Ordovician Extinction. The Ordovician period began about 485 million years ago and lasted about 40 million years. This was an era where marine beings thrived, with the exception of the literal ones. It is believed that no beings inhabited dry land. Because of this, in the warmer, shallower seas that occupied most of the planet, a giant variety of myriapods, shellfish, and seaweed dwelled. If a diver could explore the seas of that time, no doubt he would be fascinated, but just imagine, even this great diversity of admirable creatures ended up being victims of a mass extinction at the end of the Ordovician period. This extinction occurred twice, resulting in the disappearance of about 85% of marine species. Scientists believe that the first extinction that occurred was caused by intense global cooling. The Ordovician was overall a very cold period, but the most obvious ice age began between 450 to 440 million years ago. Almost all of the landmass existing at that time was part of what we call the supercontinent Gondwana, which, with the movement of the tectonic plates, eventually settled at near the South Pole. Imagine a giant continent at the South Pole, occupying almost the entire southern hemisphere, for that is exactly what it looked like at that time with the formation of the glaciers. The sea level begins to drop. This happens because, as the ice in the polar region grows, the seawater is absorbed and, because of this, it is believed that the beings that inhabited the shallower seas ended up dying asphyxiated, just like the fish that were left behind during the low tide. But still, some beings managed to adapt to the extremely cold sea. Trilobites, conodonts, echinoderms, and many corals are believed to have survived. But along with the end of the Ice Age came a second wave. This time, the planet warmed up. And as the oxygen in the atmosphere decreased, an extremely toxic gas called sulfur dioxide was released, and again, many species became extinct. After this event, the planet was sadder and less agitated than before for a long time. The Devonian Extinction. And after the Ordovician, the Devonian period began. The Devonian period is also called the Age of Fishes. Among the creatures that appeared in the Ordovician period, fish were isolated in a corner, but with the extinction of their competitors, they all moved into the space that was now unoccupied. One example is the Sarcopterygians. Until 1938 it was believed that these creatures had become extinct, but unexpectedly, in the same year, a strange coelacanth, the blue coelacanth, was captured in South Africa. This was the last survivor of the Sarcopterygians. It may be that in some future video, we will show you what the fate of this coelacanth was. What we will show from now on is a sister group of them, already extinct. Evolution eventually led these creatures to become amphibians, just like the Ichthyostiga, whose body may have been as long as 1.5 meters. It is said that the Hispitiosegas were one of the first beings to live in a terrestrial environment. In front of them stretched a vast terrain where they could walk and live freely. Even before animals, plants had already advanced in the terrestrial environment. Primitive plants such as horsetails, lycopods, and pteridophytes finally covered the entire earth with green. Insects and arthropods also appeared. The life of these creatures continued until about 372 million years ago, where the so-called Kellwasser event occurred. And then, after 14 million years, the Hamburg event occurred. Even researchers do not know for sure what these two events were. As a result, several species disappeared, and in the sea, the effects were even more remarkable. And by the way, those extinct creatures so long ago became the oil deposits. So every time you put gasoline in your car, you are putting the refined remains of these unfortunate Devonian fish. The Permian extinction. We don't know why, but many people think that the cruelest and most catastrophic extinction was the one 65 million years ago, so famous for wiping out the dinosaurs. Perhaps simply because of the fact that dinosaurs themselves are extremely popular. The truth is that the worst mass extinction in history occurred long before, about 250 million years ago, at the end of the Permian period, through the Permian extinction. A giant axe struck the tree of evolution along with all its branches. Several species vanished from the world at once, even the trilobites, who for millions of years had been swimming in peace through the seas, finally disappeared. The anapsids are also gone. Not even the insects could escape this fate. 3/4 of the species could not survive. As for what happened in the sea, some say that 95% of all marine species became extinct. Can you imagine how empty the seas have become? What caused the death of all these animals and plants is still not clear. One of the most accepted theories among researchers is a meteorite crash. If planet Earth were to collide with an asteroid a few kilometers in diameter, it would generate a power similar to the explosion of thousands of atomic bombs. An impact of that magnitude would undoubtedly throw a huge amount of dust into the air, blanketing it for a long period of time. Sunlight, to make matters worse, would be blocked, and volcanoes would awaken, increasing their volcanic activity. In short, the planet would find itself in the exact picture of the end times. The Triassic extinction. Apparently, the Great Triassic Extinction, which occurred exactly 200 million years ago, occurred over an extremely short period of time. Some researchers claim that a huge amount of animals disappeared within a period of only 10,000 years. Others say it was longer, about 60,000 years, but either way, looking at it by a geological scale, it was a really short period. Even a relatively recent species, like Homo sapiens, has been around longer. The victims of the Triassic extinction were the Crurotarsi, distant relatives of crocodiles. Except for the Cynodonts, the Therapsids were also equally extinct. Cynodonts looked like a mixture of a crocodile and a dog and would later, through evolution, become the origin of the first mammals. But that's a long time later. The cause of the Triassic extinction is not known. Maybe, once again, an asteroid crashed into our planet. Or maybe a volcanic eruption, like Krakatoa's, but elevated to a colossal level. As always, researchers still have many things to clear up. But the effects of this extinction are relatively clear and have a very curious fact. As a result of this extinction, the ecological niches were now vacant for our beloved dinosaurs to take over. The Cretaceous extinction. Let's close this video with the best part. About 65 million years ago, a giant meteorite fell on the planet, creating a crater located in present-day Mexico, known by the name of Chicxulub. Through this unprecedented catastrophe, dinosaurs became extinct and many other land animals disappeared. Let's describe this event in a rather cliché way. Herbivorous dinosaurs feed on the green grass, while carnivorous dinosaurs chase and in the skies fly the pteranodons. When in such a peaceful place, suddenly, an asteroid falls, and after that, all that is left is barren land. Obviously, it didn't happen that way. In presenting the Permian extinction, we show the picture of what we call the volcanic winter. Something very similar occurred in the Cretaceous for a long period. The planet had whole days of darkness, and so first the plants and then the herbivorous animals disappeared. Finally, the carnivorous dinosaurs, which were their predators, also became extinct. The bigger the animal, the more food it needs. For this reason, the tyrannosaur, with its giant body, was the most vulnerable species in existence. Well, today's video ends here with the extinction of the Cretaceous. The planet became the current environment, and the ancient pteropsidios, who lived for millions of years hiding in the shadows of the dinosaurs and their mammalian descendants, could finally take the stage of history. Among these were also the ancestors of humans who, without extinction, might have been hunted down and made extinct by the dinosaurs. So we have nothing but thanks to this anonymous meteorite, just as we always thank all of you who always watch our videos. We have 2 more amazing videos to point you to. See you later!